Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. This is Gary Williams. I'm joined by Joel Pierson, who I met quite a long time ago on a luxurious cruise line. We won't mention the name, but a 6-star cruise line. And he is a musical director and a composer from New York. And I just wanted to pick his brains on what it was like and is like for him as a musical director working with cabaret singers. So welcome, Joel.
Thanks.
So how long ago was it that you were last on cruise ships working as a musical director?
Oh, about a year ago.
How long did you do it for? How many artists do you think you worked with, or cabaret acts that you think you worked with in that time?
Let's say 300.
That's a lot. Yeah, really?
I bet so, yeah.
Okay, so you must have seen some. I mean, it was a luxury cruise line you were working on, so I would imagine the standard was normally pretty high. From your perspective as a musical director, when you first started doing it, did you have any surprises?
The diversity of entertainers, all kinds of different people with all kinds of different music that they're expecting you to play at different levels of quality.
And the standard of the acts, was it generally good, or were you surprised?
I don't think it was particularly good overall. Certainly the guests probably enjoy it more than I do. I think that most guests are a little older and tend not to see a lot of live music of any kind, let alone see 7 or 8 entertainers in 10 days. But when you're playing those shows, you're doing it all the time. You're getting different people all the time, especially on a company that has guests that stay on for months and months at a time. And so you'll go 3, 4, 5 months without seeing anyone twice. Right. So you have an entertainer every night, so they stack up pretty fast. So
from an MD's perspective, what is it that you see in an act that makes you think, oh, this is someone that I like, this is a good act?
I suppose just a level of professionalism, singers that sing in tune, for example.
You're pretty tough. Well,
I guess. I'm the one that's got to play the different music every night. They should be able to sing in tune,
So what sort of standards were the arrangements?
It's a mix. I think it depends on. It would just depend person to person. I mean, I remember having a juggler who wanted live piano behind him, and then asked me why it was so hard for the pianist to play so difficult for him to get his music performed the way he wanted it to. But he was juggling. I mean, it's very hard to follow a juggler. And he said everywhere he goes, he has these big disasters with musicians, and he says, I don't understand, why can't they just follow me juggling? I don't know, things like that.
But I mean, the standard of the writing of the parts that you were given, was that generally high or not?
No, I think that generally it was sort of mediocre. There was a couple of arrangers that get used a lot, that work with certain agents that book all the acts, and those arrangers I don't think were very good, and so they have a huge amount of music out there. And you learn to read through their sort of mess and pick out things, figure out what they want you to do, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. You know what I mean?
And you're an arranger yourself?
I started arranging because I was tired of reading those other ones.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. I didn't really arrange much before that. So.
And you thought, well, I can do a better job than this?
Well, sometimes I'd have to do a rehearsal with an act, and then I'd have to go rewrite the part for the show so that I wouldn't mess it up. And then the acts would take it, and then they would come back 6 months later and they would still be using mine or whatever. So,
well, I mean, what's the key to good arrangements, do you think?
Well, it's different for all the different instruments. Certainly for piano, to write for piano, I mean, you need to have a score that has good page turns. We spoke about this. No backwards page turns, only forwards. There's nothing worse than you turn the page forward and there's 3 bars of music, then there's a repeat sign, but you're not sure how many pages back you got to go to get to the beginning of the repeat sign, and by that point you're already a bar late. By the time you found it, it's 2 or 3 things back, and then you take the second ending or the second time through, then maybe you're jumping a few pages ahead, and there's no way to know that either because you haven't seen the music before. So as a pianist, I think it's important to have things that move from left to right without sort of jumping around, because no one knows no one who's just singing for the first time is going to have any idea.
So what advice would you give to new acts that are joining ships for the first time, that have got their show together or putting their show together? What advice would you give them?
I would say that good arrangements are expensive and bad arrangements are cheap. So if you find someone that gives you lots of cheap arrangements, they're probably not going to be very good. And maybe they get the job done, but maybe they don't. but you find that some agents will have contacts with these arrangers, and they will do your whole show for $1,000 or something. But generally speaking, that won't give very good results, at least in terms of getting along with a pianist or a band. Maybe it translates well enough to the clientele because the clientele can't tell the difference, but certainly sometimes it can tell the difference if the band is not happy, or if the band is not playing it well, or if there's big problems because they don't know what's going on, or maybe because they've heard those same arrangements a week ago because they had a different act using the same arranger who's just photocopying. I remember, sometimes I would keep track of when we got an arrangement from a certain act, and it had someone else's name on it, who was someone that I knew as well, and then I would always tell those people when they came back, just so you know, this person has arrangements with your name.
This is an act has commissioned an arrangement, and then the arranger is then selling that arrangement on to other acts.
Maybe they're the one person's photocopying it from the other person's. I mean, you never really know how it gets that way, but certainly you start seeing the same things over and over with different people's names on them, and you know all the people, and it ends up it's just sort of the gene pool goes down because nothing's being spread out, and then we even had our cruise director notice that he was hearing some of the same arrangements from different acts. He actually made a comment to us saying, "Why are you playing all these same arrangements?"
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.